It all started with a hot tub. That's right, just a simple hot tub I installed on my own ranch property, something I'd been saving up for and dreaming about for years. Out here, after long days of hard work, soaking under the stars is about as close to heaven as it gets. But apparently, not everyone felt the same. Within days, I got a knock on my door. Not from a friendly neighbor dropping off cookies, but from 2 local cops responding to a complaint. And guess who called them? Karen, the HOA president. She claimed the hot tub violated community aesthetics, even though my ranch isn't even part of the main subdivision. That's when I realized this wasn't about rules, it was personal. Karen had a problem with people doing anything she couldn't control. She didn't like the hot tub, the freedom, or that my place brought others joy. So she filed a formal complaint, had city inspectors snooping around, and made it her mission to get that tub removed. But here's the kicker: I'd followed every zoning law, pulled all the right permits, and was well within my rights. Still, the HOA kept pushing, so I did something Karen never saw coming. I found a legal loophole and used it to turn her own house into something she never imagined: a public sauna. Yep, I'm serious. Let's just say if she wanted to sweat the small stuff, I made sure she got what she asked for, literally. With the town's approval and a little creativity, her once private palace became the hottest spot in the neighborhood. But how exactly did I pull it off? What loophole could possibly allow something like that? And what happened when Karen found out? Let's just say things got steamier than anyone expected. And it wasn't just because of the heat. Keep watching this story's just getting started to understand how things got to this point. You've got to know a bit more about Karen. She's not just any HOA. President Cho treats the position like she's running for mayor of a town she built with her bare hands. She lives right at the edge of the subdivision, in a 2-story house with perfectly trimmed hedges and signs warning nitrogen monoxide trespassing every 10 feet. And even though my ranch technically sits outside the HOA's boundaries, that didn't stop her from thinking she could extend her power my way. She said my hot tub clashed with the character of the community. What community? I've got acres of land, horses, and no shared fences. But this isn't the first time she's caused problems. I'd heard from other neighbors that she once tried to get someone fined for planting sunflowers because they were too tall. Another guy got a violation for painting his mailbox a shade too bright. The woman was on a mission to mold the world into her vision of perfect. And when she spotted that cedar hot tub sitting behind my barn, steam practically shot out of her ears. The day the officers showed up, I stayed calm. I showed them my permits, zoning clearance, even the receipts for professional installation. They apologized, said it all looked legal, but warned me Karen had filed multiple complaints and might try other tactics. That's when I started digging into county records, HOA bylaws, everything. And that's when I found it. A quirky little clause tied to a public easement. It's a forgotten part of Karen's property that had been grandfathered in decades ago. With the right paperwork and a tiny bit of strategy, it could be repurposed. Not for punishment, but for public use. That's when the idea really clicked. But I had to play it smart. One wrong move, and she could spin it as harassment. So I started quietly gathering support, checking legal routes, and getting ready to make my move. And trust me, the best was yet to come as I kept digging into the property maps and zoning quirks. That forgotten easement on Karen's land became the key to everything. Years ago, it was marked as a community rest stop, meant for ranch workers and travelers before the HOA even existed. It was never used, never maintained, and most people had no idea it was still on the books. But legally, it was still public access land just sitting there, untouched, right in her backyard. She probably didn't even know about it, which made it all the more perfect. I reached out to a local city planner, just casually at first, asking questions, double-checking if I was reading things right. Turns out, I was. Meanwhile, the hot tub drama kept growing. Karen had now sent formal letters called emergency HOA meetings, and even tried to rally other board members against me. A few neighbors, who'd had their own run-ins with her over the years, quietly told me they were rooting for me. One even brought over brownies and said, "Whatever you're planning, make it big." That support helped, because behind the scenes, Karen was turning the pressure up hard. She started filming my property from across the street, claiming she was documenting ongoing violations. At one point, she even flagged down a passing fire inspector, saying my hot tub could be a fire hazard. It was getting ridiculous. At the same time, I began piecing together the logistics of my plan. I'd need permits, community notices, and a clever way to stay within legal lines. The goal wasn't revenge, was about principle. About showing that people can stand their ground when someone in power tries to bully their way through life. And the more Karen pushed, the more determined I got. But here's the thing: while I was planning everything out, I didn't realize she had something else brewing too. Something that could change everything if I wasn't careful. I'd had enough. Between the forged documents, the surveillance, and that strange note, it was clear the HOA wasn't just stepping over a line, they were hiding something serious. I filed a formal complaint with the county and brought everything. I had aerial photos, property maps, emails, and the fake reclassification records. My lawyer got involved immediately, and within a week, we secured a court order to halt any further development till a full investigation could be done. But before officials could even show up, something happened that forced everything into the light the night before the county inspection. I returned to the ranch and saw that the hatch behind the warehouse was wide open. No lock, no gravel, just open like someone left in a hurry. I grabbed my flashlight, phone recording, and climbed down a rusted metal ladder into what looked like an underground room. What I found made no sense. Rows of sealed storage containers, HVAC units humming softly, and dozens of shelves with emergency rations, medical kits, and oddly boxes marked with the HOA's logo. It looked like some kind of emergency stockpile. Maybe it started as a disaster prep project, but it had gone way beyond that. Then, in the far corner, I saw a rack of documents. Plans, maps of the entire neighborhood with zones marked control, transfer, and asset. That's when I realized it wasn't just about my ranch. This HOA had been quietly setting up to turn large portions of our community into something else entirely. Private use. Commercial leasing. No one outside the board even knew. The next morning, city officials, investigators, and media showed up on my land. The warehouse was shut down, the hatch sealed, and several HOA board members resigned on the spot. But here's the twist. Just a few days later, I got a visit from someone I'd never met. Quiet man. Suit, badge, tucked in his coat. He said only this: "You uncovered more than you know. Be careful who you trust." Then he left without another word. Turns out, the warehouse was only the beginning. After that visit, I kept my guard up. I never saw the man again, but his warning stayed with me. The investigation into the HOA exposed a web of shady dealings, unauthorized contracts, secret budget reallocations, and years of decisions made without community consent. Several board members were charged with fraud, and the rest stepped down quietly. A new election was held, and for the first time in a long while, the neighborhood came together to demand transparency. The warehouse was dismantled piece by piece. The land was officially returned to me, and the county issued an apology for their lack of oversight. It didn't replace what I lost, especially the barn, but it was something. I rebuilt smaller this time, but stronger. With help from neighbors who had once stayed silent, we cleared the lot, reset fencing, and put things back the way they were meant to be. Chris and I kept digging into HOA records, not out of paranoia, but to make sure nothing like this could happen again. We found traces of similar land reassignments in other parts of the community, all of which were reversed once exposed. The neighborhood had been asleep for too long, letting a handful of people control what didn't belong. To them, in the end, this wasn't just about property lines or buildings. It was about standing up when something feels wrong, even when no one else sees it yet. My ranch was nearly taken out from under me, but it sparked a bigger change that needed to happen. So if you're ever dealing with an HOA that seems too quiet, too secretive to ask questions, check your records. Pay attention, because sometimes the real problem isn't what's being built, It's what's being hidden underneath.